Apologies. I don't have time to record narration, so I will be using various computer voices. I know some people don't like this, but you'll have a lot more to be upset about when the video is over, so easy there, big fella.
Last year I made a video called Eyes Bred Shut. It was about a couple of self-ID fundamentalists and their desperate attempts to deny trans ideology's long-standing connection with pedophilia advocacy. It was one of my more popular videos, both because it was pretty funny and reasonably well made, but also because it picked the right people to expose. This is because most people, at least in my audience, enjoy laughing at self-ID fundies. But even as I was making it, I knew that the gender atheist movement itself, and other fellow travelers, also have their own affiliations with pedophilia advocacy, which they do not acknowledge. I think that's at least one factor in why videos talking about Graham Linehan and the mess we're in are less well received, even though they're arguably more important, because many of the people who watch my videos might, one day, want or even need to go on a platform like the mess we're in, or be interviewed by Benjamin Boyce, and so, criticisms of them, along with people like Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor, tend to fall by the wayside. It's much more popular to talk about Peter Tatchell.
Of the book that he then says that he didn't know he was writing it. Chapter 4. Yeah.
So, with this video, I make some pretty pointed criticisms of Kellie-Jay Keen, but I do so as someone who recognizes the absolutely indispensable role played by Keen and let women speak. When it comes to abolishing trans lies in law, Posey Parker is a legend, second to none. Additionally, I made this video as someone who has made concrete material contributions to this movement. I donated hundreds of dollars to let women speak to help with the Australian tour. I messaged some of the organizers when they were circulating images believing their names were obscured when they weren't. Also, I pieced together footage of multiple live streams from the infamous Let Women Speak Melbourne demonstration so that I could objectively disprove the media narrative that the Nazi demonstration had anything to do with Kellie-Jay Keen. It turns out that I did this so thoroughly that Moira Deeming, an Australian politician who was kicked out of her party for attending the demonstration, sent my video to her lawyers to help with her defamation case. I say all this to undermine anyone suggesting that these criticisms are baseless hate from someone who doesn't support the cause. So, with that out of the way, let's begin.
Glinnergate. Like, there's so much positive news, there's so much wellspring of solidarity and support with you.
It's not a Glinner-sansa, it's either Glinner's nonsense or even Glinner's nonsense.
What I'm talking about is that this organization is viewed as some kind of credible body, and yet they are affiliated with virtuous pedophile supporters. I would think that that would give people pause, for the love of Christ.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
It's been a brilliant year.
It has. And you know, I've been outspoken from the very beginning.
Of the book that he then says that he didn't know he was writing it. Chapter 4. Yeah.
Genspect is an organization that purports to reject trans ideology. However, it seems that they are merely trying to refine it. Last year, there was a scandal when Genspect promoted a book written by an autogynophile. The book argued that autogynophilia was an innate sexuality, akin to homosexuality, and attempted to rebrand autogynophilia as autoheterosexuality. The book also argued that, in the absence of actual children, a desire to pretend to be a child during sex was also an innate sexuality. It further stated that this practice caused no harm to children. Tragically, Genspect has been doing this type of thing for years, and they keep getting away with it.
He can't keep getting away with it!
I don't approve of much of what Phil Illy has said on Twitter after the event. I was recommended his book, and I was recommended his book by 3 people who I couldn't be closer to professionally.
Really, Stella? 3 people? What an interesting number of people to have recommended this revolting book. Did the names of those 3 people happen to include
Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor, who are listed on the Virtuous Pedophile website.
Stella has a lot of trouble looking at the camera as she sets up this misdirection. To demonstrate this, her screen will turn black and white when she looks away.
Who I really rate, and they recommended. Will I ever take the recommendations again? No. But I took their recommendations. Sometimes there's a chain of trust, and you trust that this is a strong recommendation. Within that book, there's something about medical transition of children, so we shouldn't have taken it.
And age play, Stella. You're also forgetting that there was a section about age play.
One thing we've learned is we'll tighten up our policies around anybody recommending anything.
Or maybe you could just tell us the names of your 3 very close colleagues who recommended this book so that we also can ignore their recommendations in the future. Otherwise, it seems like you're protecting them at the same time as trying to get credit for pointing out that they had, at best, a severe lapse in judgment. But that probably was not the case, because probably these people included
Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor, who are listed on the Virtuous Pedophile website.
Somebody actually emailed us a book today, and she said, it's about gender. Could you put it on your website? We said, wait, we need a team of people to read that book.
Here we find Stella, who is trying to indicate to the audience, but also specifically to Kellie-Jay, something to the effect of,
"Oh wait, I get it now. The F word is a no-no word, and I shouldn't say it around other people. I'm sorry, Mama."
Wait,
"Oh wait, I get it now."
wait, team of people to read that book.
which is obvious bullshit.
I was living in a devil town.
Somebody actually emailed us a book today, and she said, it's about gender. Could you put it on your website? We said, wait.
Stella is trying to pretend that she is sorry, and that she understands what she did wrong. In essence saying, look, Posey. Look. I've learned my lesson, and look what a good person I am being now. I stopped the books. Look at me stopping the books, Posey. Watch me. I'm stopping the books. And Posey is like, oh my. Yes, very good, Stella, I see you, stopping those books, very well done. I'm so proud. The problem is that the lesson is not that Genspect needs a team of people to read each book they recommend. The problem is that this book in particular came recommended by 3 people who could not be closer to Stella professionally, whom she refuses to name.
I was recommended his book by 3 people who I couldn't be closer to professionally.
Watch Benjamin Boyce duck down when Stella says the words closer to.
Recommended his book by 3 people who I couldn't be closer to professionally.
This is because Stella was putting all her chips on the table. If Kellie-Jay Keen lets this slip, and she does, then all Stella has to do is finish the joke that she is telling, and if Kellie-Jay laughs at the end, after accepting the premise that the problem is that Genspect doesn't have a team of book checkers, instead of that Genspect has been deeply connected to pedophile apologists for years, this will effectively be her endorsing this version of events. Some people have argued that Kellie-Jay actually won by allowing Stella to look silly. But looking silly is not at all incompatible with having a lot of power, and it is nowhere near a sufficient enough response to the scale and urgency of this problem. Genspect should have burned to the ground during that interview. Instead, it got tidied. I don't want to tidy up for pedophile apologists. If I told you that there was a pedophile advocacy group that was operating nearby, but not to worry, because I did an interview with one of them, during which, even though I specifically endorsed their project and wish them well, if you look at my body language, you can totally tell that I think they're crazy, then, in this case, no one would be mistaken that this was an adequate response. As a comparison, when 2 women recently tweeted about the October 7th attack on Israel in a way that Kellie-Jay Keen found objectionable.
Judith Green, the director of Women's Place UK, liked this tweet on the 8th of October. Hamas did an outstanding attack. Israel will learn lessons.
In this case, she had absolutely no problem condemning the entire organization to which they belong. That organization being Women's Place UK.
They pulled you in at WPP UK. They told you they were on the left.
Keen didn't just say it was a bad organization. She said that the success of the movement to defeat the GRA depended on women, not only leaving Women's Place, but also politically isolating those women who remain.
And I would say that if you're still in Women's Place, then you are part of the far left. You are part of the destruction of our society right now.
Yes, in a bizarre move, the woman who famously declared that she would literally shake hands with the devil himself, began to publicly read off the names of every single woman in an organization, not because of what they themselves had done, but because of who else was also in that organization.
Now, let me just remind you, Who is part of Women's Place UK? Gail Cameron, Ali Cisse. You know Ali Cisse. She's I think she calls herself a hussy, Hanover hussy. So Ali Cisse. So somebody's saying, didn't Kellie-Jay used to be against bashing and judging other people's work?
Good shot.
Can I just say to you, from me, fuck off.
That ship is a goner.
She's part of a collection of women who claim to do some work about sexual violence. Haven't heard her leave WP UK after Judith Green liking that, or Lucy Massoud saying just so many vile things.
In addition to reading their names, Keen also announced the projects these women were pursuing outside Women's Place, and, in one particularly weird case, she told everyone the area that a specific woman lived in.
She lives in Brighton.
Keen even changed her iconic sign-off, which is normally about standing with people with whom you don't agree, to instead, now being about isolating certain women from the movement.
Okay, if you can stand with people, even those you don't agree with, and you can stand firmly and walk away from people when they show you who they are.
Wait, this tastes different.
Then I promise we will win. Okay, if you can stand with people, even those you don't agree with.
And then, after standing with them, take issue with something they did on Twitter, and then proceed to read their names out in public, so that they can be added to a political blacklist, as though you are in the middle of a session at the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Then I promise we will win.
Anyway, so the stewards, so a couple of TRAs as of late have been atting me in that, say one of the stewards says that
Hamas did an outstanding attack. Israel will learn lessons.
Then a TRA would say, I'm telling Posey Parker. And I just want to say, the only time the stewards, I have anything to say about the stewards, ever, is when they're at an event. On their way to the event, they're none of my business. What they say and do is absolutely none of my business. And vice versa. On Twitter, what they say and do is none of my business. Absolutely none of my business.
Liked this tweet.
This is let women speak, not let women say the things that I approve of. So it's really peculiar that an organisation called Let Women Speak would then try and tell grown women what they can or cannot say. So,
haven't heard her leave WP UK after Judith Green liking that.
So if Kellie-Jay Keen can do all this, for an issue that has nothing to do with repealing the Gender Recognition Act, and what's more, do it in a way that explicitly sabotages the idea that Let Women Speak is truly a single-issue movement, then I think it is not unreasonable to expect that she has that same energy when people she likes are engaging in pedophilia advocacy. Perhaps, if Ray Blanchard was a Muslim, then we would get an appropriate response from Kellie-Jay. Quick, someone convert James Cantor to Islam before anyone else gets hurt.
I really admire you and like you as a person. I think that you've done some extraordinary things, Stella, and I'd really like there to be no flies on you.
Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor, who are listed on the Virtual Pedophile website. What are we looking at here? We are looking at one of the premier pedo supporters that's part of the Genspect organization that has been platformed on the Genspect podcast, Gender a Wider Lens, praising the AGP of the moment, who put Genspect back on the radar, Phil Illy. Yes, indeed. Michael Bailey, praising Phil Illy's writing and his insights before the Genspect conference. Notice the date, October 24th. So a couple weeks ago. And he's hailing this guy. Now, what does that say about Genspect as an organization? Does it say that Phil Illy was some dude who just happened to, show up there? No, absolutely not. He did not just happen to show up. If he's being praised by Michael Bailey, who is hailed by O'Malley and Ayad as one of the pioneers of whatever the hell it is they're doing, their gender scam. So, was he invited? Why did he know? How did he know that he could just show up there and be lauded? Who told him that? Was it planned? I think it was. I also suspect that Bailey, who is affiliated with, I believe, Northwestern University, which is a major university, along with Bailey and Blanchard, who are affiliated with well-known mental health facilities, right, that are treatment and research facilities. It would not surprise me at all if a good portion of Genspect's operating budget comes from these three: Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor. They're all relatively well off. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Do I have proof of this? Oh, absolutely not. This is pure speculation. I'm just saying that Michael Bailey, who's a well-regarded professor of a large university, may have quite a bit of pull.
Oh, the good doctor.
In terms of helping Genspect have a greater impact than you would expect from an organization that is as new as Genspect. And Genspect is fairly new.
Do you know anyone here?
Far from taking a team of people to recognize that this was a horrendous resource, any individual looking over a text that was intended for an organization that purports to help families with children would instantly recognize that this book was atrocious. So the fact that it was thoroughly endorsed by three of, presumably, Stella's superiors, is fucking terrifying.
Genspect, apologies for the delay in responding to your email. We deal with many distressed parents in need of help and, unfortunately, have to prioritize their needs. That's weird. Unfortunately, we have to prioritize their needs.
Then at the end, Kellie-Jay Keen basically says to Stella, I know you didn't mean any real harm, so I hope that you have another crack at it.
I want you to replace WPAS. These other little things just have had the capacity to damage some of the things that you've done, and I'd really like there to be no flies on you.
Which is why I 100% agree with Kellie-Jay Keen that gender atheists are not about to win. In reality, the movement seems like it is already irreparably infiltrated by pedophilia advocates.
Now, that's not misinformation. Stella O'Malley and Sasha Ayad have been professionally associated with Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor, who are listed on the Virtuous Pedophile website as supporters. I would like to know, what is the stance of anybody from Genspect regarding the presence of Bailey, Blanchard, and Cantor on the Virtuous Pedophile website? Why not just answer the question? It would be very easy to do.
It's been a brilliant year.
It has.
I'm Arty. Arty,
Well,
I'm Arty.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
God bless that poor woman.
Oh, I've got a better idea. You want to fuck me? Just say so. Go ahead, here. Huh? Go ahead, fuck me. Fuck me right here in the best bag.